Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
These last dreadful months suffering through the COVID-19 pandemic have accomplished at least one thing we'll take forward into the future. You cannot trust China, a country many people associate with industry, manufacturing, but at base, it's a nation run by communists, foisting upon the world the belief that you can have a form of economic freedom accompanied by none of the political freedoms we enjoy: free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. And we have witnessed the wreckage strewn across the global landscape after China discovered the coronavirus, protected themselves, while continuing to send their people out across the world before they finally admitted how serious the virus was 6 weeks later, at which point the world was being forced to shut down. We know Americans are in a rage about China and that things are going to change when this virus has finally run its course. But in what ways? Well, President Trump has released an entirely new strategy on this beast from the East. And here to tell us about it is LibertyNation.com's defense and national security expert, Dave Patterson. Dave, welcome back to the radio show.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be with you.
Pleasure to have you back. Now, I want people to know about what China is really like, about their state-controlled media, their persecution of religious minorities, and now this week their virtual annexing of Hong Kong, shattering the one country, two systems principle that had protected Hong Kong since it was handed back to China by the British. Because, Dave, we're in a highly teachable moment right now. Almost two-thirds of Americans now have an unfavorable view of China, about double the number when the year began. And once we finish our conversation today, that number will likely be higher. Now, in your recent article on LibertyNation.com entitled New Strategic Approach U.S.-China Relations Under the Microscope, you wrote about how the Trump administration released the new United States Strategic Approach to the People's Republic of China, and you said this official document is more on point and timelier than any seen in decades. It's impressive. How so?
Well, Tim, I think that it's impressive and it's timely because of it's specific. It deals with the three areas in which we are challenged by China. Economically, it's a challenge to our values, and it's a security challenge. Economically, we hoped for a reform within China when they came into the WTO, and it simply has not been realized. They still have their same predatory policies, and they are non-market, mercantilistic approach to trade. And they steal our intellectual property, and they have this demand for technological transfer before doing business with them. The Chinese activities in the South China Sea, for example, the harassment of Malaysian oil platforms. The Chinese Communist Party continues to push for a defense buildup.
Now, you also write that what was anticipated to be a convergence of the People's Republic of China's rapid economic development and increased engagement with the world and a citizen-centric free and open order has not happened. Just the opposite has been the case. Explain what you mean.
Well, it's exactly that. That's what the China strategy points out. Rapid economic development of China has allowed them to increase their predatory practices in the world. And what we thought was going to be a coming together of like and common purposes and like thinking in the world of economics just simply has not happened. We believe in a rules-based approach to free trade, and that's simply not what China is doing. They want what I call ideology-based economic principles, which are antithetical to the way we think of things.
It seems to me that people are wishing for something out of China that they're never going to get, which is a spirit of global cooperation. Is it fair to say that the Chinese are bent, based on their actions over decades, they're bent not on global cooperation, but on global dominance?
That's absolutely right. I mean, everything they do is pointed in that direction. And I don't think that we can expect any different. I mean, it's been this way since 1948. And I think that, as we always say, hope is not a strategy, and it's certainly not that in this case.
Now, you talk about this national security strategy. We've had these over the years, but unlike the national security strategy, this new plan by Trump focuses on China independently rather than as part of an aggregate of global competitors. Now, the old view of the PRC is out, and you write that a more clear-eyed assessment of the Chinese Communist Party's intentions and actions is in. Now, Dave, how would you expect China to fight back against this new order being promoted by the Trump administration?
Well, I think that China will continue to do what they've been doing. But there is a very specific phrase in the strategy, which I kind of like. And it says that the US will have more tolerance for a bilateral friction with China. I take that to mean that we're not going to put up with being second fiddle to China, both militarily and economically, and that we will assert our prerogatives and our rights throughout the world. But China will not change. They have a three warfares approach to a three warfare strategy. It's psychological. It relies on using the legal system to get what they want, and also media, or what they call public opinion warfare. And we have to be vigilant in all three of those areas.
Now, referring to the globalist vision of the left, which includes a wonderful relationship of friendship and mutual cooperation with China, you write, no one is confused by the Platonesque sounding phrases like building a community of common destiny for mankind. But it does bring to mind a utopian experience. Think about it, a community of common destiny, not just for a few or thousands, but for all mankind. Wow. You lingering flower children of the 60s, you're thinking, where do I sign up? But just a minute, the China strategy explains what the words really mean. So what do they really mean?
Well, when you have these really nice sounding words, what it means is that China dominates economically, China dominates politically, China dominates in the media. And once you realize that, then life will be awesome. Not just for a few, but for all mankind.
Oh,
it's not.
It's inspiring. Oh, Dave, it's so inspiring. I'm sitting here beaming from ear to ear at the thought of it.
You should be.
Do you think now these are important questions in terms of the perception of Americans of China? Do you think Americans are really aware that China has a 100% state-run media, no freedom of the press at all?
No, absolutely not. I don't think they have that as an understanding at all. We used to know what that looked like when you looked at Pravda and the Soviet Union. They have not generalized that same way of thinking to the Chinese media and the Chinese media outlets, the Global Times, for example. They don't realize that that is the President Xi speak. And so consequently, they're more likely to believe it. But it's not just the Americans. We have a media that believes that stuff too.
Well, that's an understatement. They're actually purveyors of the message from the left. They're almost as if they're just simply cheerleaders or vessels. Dave, this has been very enlightening, and I'm sure we'll be discussing China a whole lot more going forward. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tim. It's great to be with you always.